welcome back to Vlogmas Day 11. Today I am doing a finale of my project pan for my eyeshadows. This year was kind of tough in terms of my eyeshadow usage. I love eyeshadow and I usually wear it most days, but I really struggled to hit these goals. So I want to discuss why it was difficult for me, which goals I reached, which ones I didn't, and kind of just give you a sneak peek into next year's project pan. So this year I started with a Pan That palette as well as a rolling project pan for other eyeshadows. So in my Pan That palette I picked 4 shades that I wanted to hit pan on by the end of the year, and I will go over that with you shortly. I also had another project going on where I believe it was 5 shades that I would roll. So some were prompt based while others were exact shades, and then I think one was like I was allowed to pick which one it was. This year was just really rough for my project. It was my first year doing a project based on eyeshadows, and let me tell you, it was tough. I already knew that it took forever to hit pan on eyeshadows. I've never done it myself before, but I had seen other YouTubers do it, and like what I'm thinking of, like Sarah Rose, Caitlin Costello, they are incredible at their usage, and I'm just not there yet, I guess. So I think I will go over my Pan That palette first and kind of just go over the struggles that I had and I think why, and then my goals for next year. So this is the NYX Ultimate Shadow Palette. This palette is super old. I don't remember how old it is. I'm thinking like 4, maybe 5 years ago. Definitely my oldest palette. I've had others in the past where I would get close to like hitting pan, or I definitely hit pan on some, but then I would just like throw the palette away. I don't know what was wrong with me then. So my goal was to hit pan on 4 shades, and I will kind of go over them with you. So in the first row we have these 2 shades. As you can see, I hit pan on one. I did repress it, so I am on like the bare bones of it, and it's gonna be done any day now. The one next to it, I only recently rolled this in. I'm thinking like August. I don't exactly remember when I rolled these other shades in because I started the year with just doing 1 shade at a time, and that was a huge part of my failure in this year's project. It took me about 60 uses to hit that one, and I was just like, yeah, I need to speed things up. And I started with this next one that we're going to talk about. And then it was taking forever and I wasn't reaching the goal, so that's when I brought in more shades. So then in the second one, we can see that this shade and this shimmer are the ones that I've had. And the shimmer, it looks like there is a pan, but there is not. I can taste it. It is there. I still think I'm going to finish it before the end of the year. I finished 50% of my goals with this palette. That is horrible, and I'm really just hoping for better results next year. I do have a video coming that will explain like the rules and which shades that I'm picking, but next year I'm going to pick 4 shades at the beginning of the year that are my goal to hit pan, and that way they all have like an equal chance of reaching pan around the same time, hopefully. Like I said, this pink one took 59 uses to hit pan, and it was the tiniest pan. Like, you needed to bust out a microscope to see it because it was so tiny. But I hit it in 59 uses, so I'm very happy about that. So this like white highlight shade that I haven't hit pan on yet, I used 34 times, and I really thought it was more than that. I guess not. 34 times is how many times I used it this year. So based on how the matte was to finish, about another 30 more times to hit that pan, which I just can't see that happening anytime this year. I do hope I can get that done early next year. The pink shimmer, on the other hand, I used 37 times, and I feel like it looks much deeper in the pan because I have to use my finger to get it out. I've tried with a brush and it doesn't pick up the pigment really. So I'm thinking and hoping maybe around like that 50 usage mark is when I'll hit it. Hopefully before then though, because I would like to have this done by the end of this year. So I am a little disappointed with the goals that I reached and didn't reach with this palette, but I know next year is going to be so much better, and just I have a plan going into the year with this one. The other project where I had prompts based for which eyeshadow I was going to use, this was tough. And I really thought that like the color story worked well and I was going to use it, and then I really didn't. So I would say at least half of the usage that I got from these was because I was using the whole palette because I just couldn't get myself to use them together. So I don't have the palettes out right now, but I will just insert a picture of what it's looking like now. So the first one is the ColourPop Lush Life, and the shade I had is It's Paradise, and I only used this 15 times. I just really struggled with it. It's a really beautiful shade. It just didn't pair well with all the other colors I had. And oftentimes it would shift to like more green than that gold. Sometimes I would get it shift to the gold, which was gorgeous, but it was just really hard to kind of determine what it was going to look like depending on the other colors I used. And it was just really hard to use, especially during the fall. I feel like this is a perfect like summer or spring shade, but it just was not working well for me. I had another shade from the same palette, and it's called Noni, sorry. And it was just like this red shade, and it actually was redder than it looked. It looks pretty dark in the pan, but it came off like very like ketchup tomato red. And another one I just struggled to use because it didn't pair well with things. I did actually like using it with my NYX palette, but NYX already has some of these red shades in here that I don't use with it. I'm wearing it today so you can kind of see some of the deepness of them, but that's kind of how I got usage with that shade. I also saw, I don't know who, but I saw a short of someone using a red shade as an eyeliner, and I did that a few times, and it's like very hard to tell that it's red, so that did work well. I don't know if I said this, but I used that shade 15 times as well. A lot of these, I feel like I just got to the 15 times mark and I was just like thanking God that I was done with it, because it was just so hard to use them together and I really just wanted to reach the goals on this palette. So it was just really hard to get to that and even make myself use it sometimes. This next shade, I actually did use it more than 15 times, and this is from my Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge palette. And the shade is Stand Up, and it's just a very gorgeous shimmer. It's so cute and pretty, and I just really liked it for like an everyday look. This one I used 20 times, and it was also very easy to work in with this palette. But more often than not, I was just using my Pretty Grunge palette as a whole because I hadn't really gotten to use that as much because I was working on so many other shades. But I do really enjoy that one. The shimmers in that palette, they are so soft to the touch. It's gorgeous, and this one was no different, so it was really nice to use that shade. Then the next and final shade from my rolling prompts was from my Revolution Game of Thrones palette, and this one was called Saddle. So this one I used 18 times. This one was a little easier for me to use just because it's kind of like that neutral tone. But overall, I did really enjoy using that palette. Some of the reds in that palette can be a bit stubborn and not blend easily, but I didn't really have issues with this shade. So that is my 2024 eyeshadow rolling project pan wrapped up. I'm still happy with my progress I had this year. It's definitely nowhere near like my other project panning projects, just because I feel like I'm able to go through things much more quickly compared to eyeshadow, where it can literally take you years to finish something. I do feel like I learned a lot from this project, especially with like how often I'm using eyeshadows, especially like very colorful eyeshadows. But nonetheless, I had lots of fun doing this, and I am really excited for my project for next year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's Vlogmas video. Bye!